Listen, this is Bear Friend Tea Party.
Take it from famous Norwegian dentist.
This is my last.
Here's how you open the podcast. It'll be me saying, okay, just take that again from famous Norwegian dentist.
Famous Norwegian dentist. Oh, God. All right. This is the last time. You're listening to Bear Friend Tea Party, a podcast featuring members of super noise pop excellent group, the Flowers of Disgust. Blah, blah, blah. My name is Christopher Winter. I'm joined on the podcast, as always, by Dr. Jeremy, somebody, and Jonathan. Oh, God damn it. Does somebody else want to do this week?
Hello. You're listening to... What is Bear Friend Tea Party? A podcast. I'm Christopher Winter.
Wait, are we totally
as
sold
always,
on that name?
our famous Norwegian dentist, Jeremy Mullis from North Carolina, and what did we say John was? Town drunk Jonathan Bumpers.
Jeremy, what's on the program tonight?
Tonight on Bear Friend Tea Party, we'll have 3 or 4 segments, depending on whether Danny shows up. Segment 1, just why is it that basketball is so humorous? Segment 2, who among us can name the most fictional / non-canonical Smurfs? Topic 3, Realism, Liberalism, and Constructivism in Contemporary International Relations Theory. Topic 4, Segment 4, what are some podcasts more enjoyable than this one?
That'll be a tough one.
It's going to be a long one.
Do we have some listener emails?
We do have a couple of listener emails. This first one we got just a couple days ago, and this is really nice. Hi there. I am so grateful I found your website. I really found you by accident while I was browsing on AOL for something else. Nonetheless, I'm here now, and I would just like to say cheers for an incredible post and a all-around interesting blog. Parentheses, I also love the theme design. I don't have time to browse it all at the moment, but I have bookmarked it and also included your RSS feeds. So when I have time, I will be back to read more. Please do keep up the superb work. Isn't that nice?
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's great. That's probably the most positive email
That
we've
is
gotten.
from Replica Oakley Sunglasses.
I want that to be my new name.
It's a good name.
Can we go back and change my name to Replica Oakley?
I don't see why not.
Is that a thing? Replica Oakley
Apparently,
sunglasses?
like if you want the prestige of wearing Oakley sunglasses, but you can't afford the, the high. Are Oakley sunglasses that great?
I think so, yeah. I have heard that name in conjunction with stylish sunglasses before. I think I would go so far as to say that Oakley is the Gucci of sunglasses.
Does Gucci
Really?
make sunglasses?
Yes, and can we get a sponsorship deal?
Hey, one time I was in New York one time buying knockoff merchandise in Chinatown, and I wanted like a knockoff watch, but like the knockoffs of nice brands like the Louis Vuitton and stuff were too expensive, so I got a knockoff Seiko.
A knockoff what?
Seiko.
Oh yeah.
I think it's like an okay watch.
I think they're the ones that made my espresso machine.
You have a Seiko espresso
so.
machine?
Isn't that a kitchen
Is it a real
appliance
one
brand?
or is it a knockoff?
Oh no!
Okay.
I'm sorry. It's a Venezia. Never mind. Oh, you know what? I don't have an espresso machine.
Yeah, you have an AeroPress.
Yeah, that's right. I got rid of my espresso machine.
Okay, are you ready to have your mind blown wide fucking open?
Yes.
No. Yes.
Did you know that the inventor of the AeroPress was also the inventor of the Aerobie?
What?
Oh, cool. That
The
makes
Aerobie
sense.
Flying Disc.
What?
His name is John P. Aero, right?
I forget what his name is, but I read on the internet somewhere that they were actually invented by the same person. He apparently had like a 30-year lull in his inventing career there between the two, but like, pretty
yeah, I
impressive.
mean, still, that guy's done more than his share. Either one of those on their own would be a fantastic invention.
I imagine there being just a whole string of like forgotten Aero branded things.
Man.
All right, that's my interesting fact for.
No, that is
this.
My mind is
letters
blown. There's not
segment.
much. Well, we have one more letter. This one was from Fishlax. The entire text of the letter was in Russian.
Okay.
But according to
We all speak Russian.
Yeah, but not all our listeners do. So according to Google Translate, this letter read, "Fish Empire, the best online game for money. In this game, you need to buy different fish. Any fish gives caviar, which can be exchanged for gold. Gold can be sold for real money and stay out of the game on their electronic wallets. Any fish spawn different number of eggs. The greater they are, the more eggs spawn. You can buy any number of them, have no life of fish. They will not disappear, and you will throw eggs every day."
Well, that last sentence is true at least.
Yeah.
I feel like that listener was not paying careful attention to our podcast.
It seems like a great game, though. Like, if I could play a game called Fish Empire, I definitely would.
I might have to Google that and download it right now instead of doing the rest of this podcast.
Well, you should. Start can play at no cost. When registering as a gift to all, Pike.
Okay, that's enough.
That's fine.
I
That's
worked
enough.
on that accent all afternoon.
It's very
It
good.
shows.
Thank you.
I guess that answers my other question
I was
about
convinced.
whether you got that job.
Not yet, no. No, not yet.
Did you have your interview?
I have my third or something interview at next week. I'm gonna bleep out the name of that company because they may actually hire me. They're really intense.
Yeah, bleep it out, or else edit in like the Vatican or something.
You're listening to Bear Friend Tea Party, a podcast featuring members of noise pop supergroup The Flowers of Disgust. My name is Christopher Winter, and I'm joined on the podcast tonight by famous Danish dentist Jeremy Mullis of North Carolina and rum-sozzled riverboat captain Dr. Jonathan Bumpers.
That's me.
D. Gunnard Beamish, as always, is unable to join us tonight. I might edit that one back in. I felt like it just...
I like how you said, as always, is unable to join us. That was a nice little improv thingamajig.
So you guys want to
So,
jump to topic one?
we're calling them segments
Oh,
now.
segment one. Segment one. What, the segment one is Danny,
Yeah.
right? Do you want to skip over that, or
Should we talk about
just-
the fact that he thinks basketball is really humorous?
are we all? We're all agreed that basketball. So his question is, why is it that basketball is so humorous?
Yes.
And are we all agreed that basketball is not humorous?
I think
that basketball is kind of funny.
That, like, it's not particularly.
It's funnier than most sports.
like
Here's
I've always
Yeah, go
been
on.
I mean so Danny finds basketball very, very humorous.
right.
And I find it makes me a little bit uncomfortable, honestly. Because there is like, you know, there is basketball does have this history of being like, you know, a sport that early on was really exclusively kind of like a novelty sport, and I think that was kind of just because, like, black people played basketball. I believe that's true. Like, like, before we had, like, the NBA or, like, any real basketball teams, like, you had the Harlem Globetrotters, and it was just kind of like, oh, I'm gonna go out and see these, like, goofy black people playing this funny game with their, like, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we're not quite to the level of, like, black-faced minstrel kind of stuff,
show,
but like
I get what you're saying.
Like,
you're
a
saying
little
Danny
bit of
is like a horrible racist.
well,
right?
I'm not saying that. I don't think that's
I'm not
the case.
saying
I'm
that
just
he's
saying
not
that
a racist.
I would be more comfortable if he found soccer really hilarious,
What
but
about hockey?
or hockey.
I'm glad you brought up the Harlem Globetrotters, because to me, that's the thing. If basketball, just on its own, were inherently humorous, there would be no need for the Harlem Globetrotters. Just a normal basketball game would be funny. There would be no need to bring on, like, a ladder onto the court, or a pail that seems like it's full of water and then it's full of glitter. That shit is funny.
I mean,
I saw the Harlem Globetrotters
I don't think I've ever
live
seen that.
once, and it was...
That sounds amazing.
I have to say, the existence of the Harlem Globetrotters may or may not be culturally or racially insensitive, but they put on a hell of a show. Like, those guys are
true that
totally
you did
funny.
see the Harlem Globetrotters one time?
Yeah, I saw them in high school when they came to Kansas City.
Can we?
We were going kind of as an ironic joke, but we totally had a good time. And I would
Can we go back?
highly recommend that anyone who has the chance to see the Harlem Globetrotters do it, because they put on a hell of a show. And I don't even like
Jeremy, you were
sports.
saying the Harlem Globetrotters were the first basketball team?
I would not say that they were the first basketball team, but I think they do actually predate
The NBA?
I'm sure that, like, no, I mean, obviously, like, people played basketball, but I think they were, like, the first kind of, I think they predate, like, professional basketball.
I did not know that. That is news to me.
I think
they predate the rise of the NBA, like, as a major thing. I'm pretty sure that in the early days, basketball was not marked as, like, a specifically black thing. I think it was invented by some Canadian dude, and it was early on, like, it was super white, I think.
Well,
I may be wrong about that. Like, there was an age of, like, Jewish
it would just be
basketball
one
players.
in, a long line of many, like, cultural phenomenon invented by white people that were then appropriated by the African American community. And,
right.
Yeah.
And there we are.
So you're saying Danny hates white people?
The point I was making was just that it's sometimes the fact that he finds basketball so humorous sometimes makes me a little uncomfortable, and I think that it is because there is with basketball such a kind of racial association and this a little bit of a history of, like, kind of semi-exploitative kind of business there, but
Yeah.
this is just something I wanted to unpack.
That's really interesting.
I don't get what's funny about it, though.
Do you think that he also has that kind of thing for, like, other things that are appropriated from the African American community, like I don't know, jazz music, for instance? Does Danny find jazz humorous? Do you guys find jazz humorous?
Well, I think he finds the word jazz humorous. But...
Should we talk about jazz now? Jazz is funny, right? I mean,
I don't know if jazz is. I think Danny did go for there a period where some hip hop groups he thought were funny.
Well,
I don't know if that's still the case.
Some hip hop groups are funny, but I mean,
okay, the Fat Boys are definitely funny.
but the Fat Boys are the Fat Boys black? I thought they were.
I
like,
think a
Hispanic
couple
or
of them are
something.
black and maybe one's Hispanic. Did you guys ever see the movie Crush Groove?
no, I've been meaning to.
I've never heard of that.
Well, it's not necessarily a great movie, but there is a hilarious part with the Fat Boys where they're walking down the street and they're really sad because, get this, they have just lost a rap contest.
Oh, man.
That's
Yeah,
already, like, unrealistic that the fat boys would lose a rap contest.
Well, no. They're really upset. Like, they're near tears, and they're walking down the street, and then they see a... what's the name of that New York... Sbarro's? Is that the place?
Yeah, SB.
Yeah, they see a Sbarro's, and they run it, like, they get super excited, and they run in, you know, they're fata jiggling into the Sbarro's and just start spontaneously rapping about how much they love to eat food. I think the song was called All You Can Eat.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be like the genesis of the Fat Boys. Like after that, they're sitting around, you know, sated and having musically accomplished something. And the guy's like, see, that's why we lost that rap battle. We weren't rapping about the stuff we love, like food. And then they're like, you're right. We're the Fat Boys.
What were they rapping about in this rap contest?
You know, I don't remember.
Know?
I don't remember that part. I mean,
did you watch the whole movie?
No, I saw part of it on TV. I believe it was actually playing on MTV back in the days when MTV played music-related stuff.
When was that? Back in the 50s?
Yeah.
40s and 50s. Yeah, started during the war.
Yeah.
So how about that swing
music?
music?
With rap is, or what the deal with basketball is? I don't know what his. I don't get what he thinks is funny about basketball.
I mean, it's. I do think it's funny how funny he thinks it is.
That is funny.
I think there's something intrinsically funny about the goal of basketball. It just seems, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. You're trying to put a spherical object into this ring that's suspended up in the air. What's up with that?
Doesn't that apply to virtually all sports?
I don't think that applies to any other sport.
I mean, but basically the same thing could be said. Like they're all. I think
baseball is pretty funny.
They're all essentially ridiculous when you put it in those terms.
Yeah, I guess skee-ball, in skee-ball there's kind of like a series of rings in the air and you try to get a ball in there. Do we consider skee-ball a sport?
Well, in skee-ball at least you've got a purpose because you want to get as many tickets as you can to get a prize.
Yeah, skee-ball is more of a sport than basketball.
That's logical. Skee-ball is, I mean, in a way it's not a sport because it has a practical outcome. Skee-ball is like an endeavor.
Skee-ball's just awesome.
Yeah,
I love skee-ball.
Best.
Can we all agree that skee-ball is great?
Let's agree that skee-ball is the world's best sport.
Can we just let's pretend the question in this topic was like, is skee-ball great?
Yep. Okay.
And let's all
agree.
We can all
agree.
Say yes, right?
I think we've reached.
Then I think
we've reached resolution on this topic.
I think we can move on.
Well done, guys.
Hello, you're listening to Bear Friend Tea Party, a podcast. What's the rest of it? Something about noise pop?
I'm Christopher Winter, your host. With me, as always, are...
You should write this down.
Oh, fuck me.
Yeah.
Okay, topic 2, that's mine, and that is... Hang on. Who among us can name the most fictional / non-canonical Smurfs? Basically, I just wanted to do kind of a quick round robin, going around throwing out humorous Smurf names.
And you wanted, like, the largest number of fictional / not, like, the most fictional. Like, as if some of them were somewhat real.
I'm pretty sure they're all fictional.
That we actually seriously keep score. I think that would be too much.
I have 8. I can do 8.
Oh. All right, let's get started.
Are you going to... Okay.
I didn't
write
All right,
here's mine. Mine are shit Smurf, racist Smurf, cunt Smurf, Smurf, boner Smurf, pizza Smurf, Minsky's pizza Smurf, and forbearance Smurf.
I really like forbearance Smurf.
Thanks.
Yeah, those are all pretty
that's
good.
That's my. I thought of some more, but I think they were actual Smurfs.
That is the danger. Yeah.
Yeah, most words are actual names of Smurfs.
Is there a surly Smurf?
Oh, there is a surly Smurf.
Really? No, but
mean-
is his name Surly Smurf?
What is his name? Isn't there? There's a Smurf that has glasses, and he's
We're not
he's kind
trying
of a
to
jerk,
come
isn't
up with real Smurf names, John.
Oh, I don't understand the nature of this game.
It's just
I'm-
say
I'm
a funny
out.
Smurf
I'm out.
name. Just try it. Try it. Say a funny Smurf name.
Oh, okay.
Think of
Vanity
an adjective.
Smurf.
No, think of
That's
an
the
adjective
Smurf I was thinking of.
describing a Smurf, and then but it's not a real Smurf name, and that's all you
He's
have
always
to do.
carrying around a mirror and looking at himself.
Yeah, that's a real Smurf. He's portrayed
Yeah.
by John
Is that
Oliver
true? Is
in
that
the
a-
movies.
Was he on the TV show?
I
as
don't
well?
think
Vanity
I don't
Smurf.
think
I don't
there is a
remember the
movie.
TV show, but
Is there a movie?
I
John
never watched
Oliver
it, 'cause
definitely portrayed Vanity Smurf in the Smurf movies.
even as a child, I think I thought the Smurfs were childish.
Yeah, the Smurfs were horrible. They were just stupid. It was a terrible.
Like, I don't know
cartoon.
if there was like a time when I was like too young to remember that I enjoyed that, but like as far back as I can remember, that show was stupid.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
Though maybe it was for girls. Was that for girls?
I don't know. I mean, hardly
think
any
so.
of the Smurfs were girls.
That's true. So you guys have yet to name very many.
Yeah, I did. So what did I had arbitrary Smurf,
I like that
ungainly Smurf.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
These are just off the top of my head. I didn't prepare.
Dopey
you-
Smurf.
it might be-
bashful.
it might be-
Doc.
You're not helping, John. Fashion forward Smurf.
No, okay.
I started getting these
Disreputable
Smurfs-
Smurf.
I started getting them confused with the Seven Dwarfs as well,
It's easy to do. It's a common error.
and the Santa's reindeer for that matter.
Unfortunate Smurf.
Date rape Smurf.
Now you've gone too far.
You think that? Oh, but you were fine with cunt Smurf, boner Smurf.
You know, having spent like a dozen years in Australia, I'm kind of inured to the word cunt because in the Commonwealth countries,
that's less of a big deal.
it's not
there.
as big of a deal. People say cunt all the time. In fact, there's a children's program there where one of the characters it's not cunt, it's Cunty the elf.
Really?
Really?
No, that is not correct. That would be come on.
What is what American cuss word would you say in Commonwealth nations the word cunt is kind of on par with? Like, would you say that's more like the word shit?
I don't know if there's one that really.
Not
Oh,
like
oh,
it
which one
means
is
the
it on
same
par
thing,
with?
but in terms of like the
I see
level
what
of
you mean.
like
I see what
the
you mean.
company in which you would
I see
speak
what you
it.
mean. I'd say it's at the level of fuck, if not somewhat worse. It's just not.
Okay.
I think in the U.S. it's almost unspeakable. Like
Yeah,
almost,
it's really
like it's the worst one. I'd say.
It's
about.
it's almost it's not as bad as the in word. I would say in our would you not agree?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. No. But yeah, it's pretty much it's pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
That's
I would
which
say
is
there's
why
nothing
cunt
there's
Smurf
nothing in
was so
Australia
funny.
that's just on that level.
Crass Smurf.
Crass Smurf, yeah, that's good.
Do they
Unbearable Smurf.
in Australia? Do they use the adjective bloody in Australia?
Yeah, that's used. Bloody hell, like that. Bloody Smurf. Intemperate Smurf.
Bible study Smurf. Obstinate Smurf.
Crustacean Smurf.
Blue
Aquamarine Smurf.
I like Blue Smurf. That's good.
Super Mario Smurf.
Undead Smurf.
Miles Davis Smurf.
Malevolent Smurf. Oh, basketball Smurf?
President Grover Cleveland Smurf?
Assassination Smurf.
John Wilkes Smurf. Oh, Lee Harvey Smurf.
He would be Lee Harvey Smurfwald.
Oh, that's
Leon Shulgosh
damn it.
Smurf?
Yeah,
Wait, say that one again.
Leon Shulgosh Smurf?
that's good. Oh,
That's too obscure for me.
I feel like people don't know who
Smurfelies.
Leon Shulgosh is.
I would like to know who Leon Shulgoff is, but no one has ever told me. And I don't know how to spell it.
He's the guy. It's weird that that's not common knowledge.
So, segment 3, a topic that has been assigned to me, realism, liberalism, and constructivism in contemporary international relations.
So what's your question
theory.
exactly? Can you talk us through
Well,
that?
I guess like if I had to put this in the form of a question, it would be in relation to contemporary international relations theory. What are realism, liberalism, and constructivism?
John?
Oh, you're asking me?
Like, should we just vote? Which is like the best?
I think that would probably be the most efficient way.
Okay.
I mean, I can... my
Constructivist Smurf? Oh no, we're not doing that anymore.
Objectivist
Smurf.
Neo-realist Smurf. I think the you don't have to worry so much about the jargon. I think the big question there is, like, what are the drivers of international relations, of a country's foreign policy? Like, why do countries behave the way they do on the international stage? What's motivating them? You know, who should we even be looking at as far as the actors? Should we be talking about leaders? Do personalities matter? Is it more about the nature of the state, the character of the government? Or is it more about, like, the nature of the international system as a whole? My understanding is that realism and even liberalism to some degree, the idea is kind of, it really doesn't matter who's in charge, and it doesn't matter what kind of government you got. You get down to it, international relations, like the world order, is just anarchy, and each country is out for itself, and there are no rules, not really. And so it doesn't really matter who's in charge. Each country is essentially going to behave the same as any other country, and it's just every state for itself. It's a Hobbesian, anarchic war of all against all.
That's just realism, or that's realism and also liberalism?
I was surprised because I was listening to some lectures on this recently, and I had always thought of liberalism as completely different, but the guy was making the case. He was saying liberalism in international relations theory, like people like, what's his name, Robert Cohen and them, they actually start with most all of the same assumptions as a realist. We assume that the states are the actors, we assume the international order is anarchy, we assume it's dog eat dog, blah 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 blah, but it may be in the interests of each individual state to set up cooperative systems where in the long term everybody benefits, even though they're in the short term they may give up some level of liberty.
So is constructivism markedly different from those?
My understanding is that constructivism is totally different. It's taking like a sociological approach to IR theory, and basically you're saying all of those assumptions that like the realists had, states are the primary actors, and the goal of each state is to increase its power or get security. All of that needs to be questioned. You can't just say, that states automatically have these goals and ends, and means you have to look at how are those goals constructed, and so it's much more about like the historical process.
I like that. I like that.
You know,
better.
it's putting the people back in international relations in a way, saying like you can't just regard states as like rational actors trying to maximize security or power or whatever.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let me back up a second, because I don't know anything about international relations. Realism, liberalism, and constructivism, are these like kind of the dominant schools of thought in international relations theory?
Yeah, those are basically the big three
basically.
today, I would say.
So, okay, so let's review.
I should specify, for listeners, I don't actually know anything about international relations theory.
You skimmed an article about this.
I listened to some podcasts after I saw that you hadn't changed this topic, which I jokingly assigned to you, and assumed you would immediately change.
No, my policy from now on, if someone assigns me a topic, I go with it. And I do it to death. So, to review, give me 2 sentences on each of these. Realism.
Realism, I'd say,
in relation to international
yeah, and it's a confusing name because everybody would say I'm a realist. Nobody says I'm not realistic, But yeah, in international relations, 2 sentences, I'd say the international system is an anarchy, and each state seeks to maximize its own power or security.
So it's interesting because on one level they're saying that on an international level it's anarchy, and yet on the national level it seems like they're kind of implicitly accepting the notion of the state.
Yeah.
That's kind of that, which is interesting to me. But I guess it is international relations. And then the distinction then, as you've already stated, that realism and liberalism really not that different from what you can tell.
Yeah, which surprised me.
What is the takeaway though between realism and liberalism?
I can't take it anymore.
I would say that the liberals are more optimistic about the potential for cooperation between states.
Whereas the realist,
it's not going to happen. Yeah,
that's not going to happen.
The liberals going to say you can get out of the prisoner's dilemma because that dilemma is played over and over again, and you're future oriented.
Right. Okay. So that makes it. So is liberalism, is that a newer school of thought than realism?
I would say somewhat newer, but I think they both go back a long ways. I know the realists will trace themselves back through Machiavelli and Hobbes and Thucydides, and the liberals go back at least as far as Immanuel Kant.
So what about constructivism? When does that enter the party? So realism and liberalism, they're kind of related but contrary schools of thought which have kind of a long history. And when does constructivism come in?
It sounds more modern,
from your description of it, it sounds a little postmodern almost. We need to question all of these assumptions and make sure we're not just kind of bringing this framework to it that is artificial.
That sounds correct
or is
to
that
me.
Just something
I don't know exactly when it came in because again, I only listened to about 3 podcasts about this, and they weren't that long.
I mean, but since Beamish isn't here, you are our expert.
Yeah, it's really a shame he's not here for this one because he could really clear away a lot of the confusions. My understanding is that constructivism, it's more recent and it's more it borrows a lot from sociology Whereas the realism and liberalism, like the methodologies there, they sound a lot like economics. Like it's all about rational actors trying to maximize whatever it is they want, right? So it's like it's all game theory, it's all economics. Whereas the constructivists, it's more about, wait, you can't just say that states always have goal X. You can't take that for granted. Where did that goal come from? I heard it described as more sociology. It sounded much more historical to me as well, like about putting together the narrative.
Well, you can't
separate
the two, though, can you? I guess, so are we going to put
which
this
one
to
is
a
best?
vote?
I guess
Yeah.
I would say I'm leaning towards constructivism, but I have to say, I from time to time read Stephen Walt's blog in Foreign Affairs magazine, and he's like an uber realist, but I really enjoyed his blog, and I usually thought he was mostly correct. So
A lot of times you just like you read like kind of the boiled down like 2 to 5 sentence version of like what one of these kind of isms is all about, and you're like, well, that's kind of retarded. But then you kind of, as you learn a little more about it, you kind of see where they're coming from, and you realize there are
that's true.
subtleties to it that don't really come out. So it could, and that could be the case. But I definitely, based on our discussion, I'm definitely voting for constructivism, because that seems honestly realist.
I think I agree with you.
Than realism.
I guess in defense of the realists, I would say, like, they're not idiots. They don't just, in real life, they probably wouldn't say, oh yeah, these goals of the state are just automatic, blah, and states are rational actors. They'd probably just say, as a first approximation, as a theory of how states behave, you kind of need to simplify things. And so for practical purposes, just assume that states are rational and self-serving, and that's not too crazy. Also, most of the realists I've come across, they're often far more critical or far more skeptical, particularly of like American adventurism abroad, than some of the liberals.
From what you've said, liberalism seems like, to me, the most idealistic and therefore the most dangerous of these schools of thought. Again, though, it's always difficult, particularly since we're basing this almost entirely on your interpretation of several episodes of a podcast by one person, and like what is his school of thought? Like, are we hearing liberalism and realism described through the eyes of a
that's
constructivist?
possible. I think the guy who was doing the podcast felt that the whole debate between realists, liberals, and constructivists was kind of tired, and you just have to take things on a case-by-case basis and say, well, in these circumstances, it's profitable to look at things from a realist point of view, and in this other case, it's valuable to take a constructivist slant, and, so on and so forth. Which seems to me like I'm kind of a pragmatist about this stuff. Like, the theory's only...
I'm sorry, that's
okay,
not one of the
never mind.
options.
I just...
Right, plus, you've already voted.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, John, how about
Are we
you?
still talking about this?
Surprisingly, yes.
I thought it was an interesting discussion, actually. I learned a lot about international relations critical theory.
I stopped paying attention like 20 minutes ago.
Does it make sense to consider this topic closed and move on to the...
John hasn't voted yet, but
I mean,
even
were
if he
we voting?
disagrees with us, it's 2 against 1.
Yeah.
So I'd say constructivism wins.
So, okay.
Oh, well, I vote that my vote should count for more.
Oh. All right, well, which...
I have no idea what you guys are
Are
talking
you
about.
just... Okay,
Were you listening?
realism, liberalism,
Well, in fairness, I was not listening. I do not know what obstructivism is.
Well, John, if you'd been listening, I had Chris talk us through it.
it was boring.
Yeah. In John's defense, we already knew that
Well,
he does not listen to this
Okay,
podcast.
no, he does just on 1.5
No, I do.
speed.
I do listen
Oh, you
to
listen to it now?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you'll find out later.
Danny
I've
doesn't
listened
listen
to every episode.
No,
See, that's what he didn't want any spoilers.
all right.
That's right.
John, you
I
wanna
will
be-
listen
okay,
to it and I will write in.
Well, here, John, just choose based on just on the basis of the words themselves, and then we'll move on. Realism, liberalism, or constructivism.
And bearing in mind that your vote doesn't matter because two of us have already selected constructivism.
Which is the correct answer.
See, that's the one that I don't understand.
It doesn't matter which you say.
Is that like progressivism?
No. Well, John, you're just going to have to listen to the podcast.
Friend Tea Party! Friend Tea Party!
Good evening.
Okay.
Good evening. You're
you
listening
starting
to
now?
Bear Friend Tea Party, a podcast. This should be the whole
I
podcast.
was just thinking that.
This should just be... No. Good evening. You're listening to Bear Friend Tea Party, a podcast. I'm Christopher Winter, your host. With me, as always, our famous Norwegian dentist... Jeremy Mullins.
We're talking about dudes with attitude now, is that right?
The title that I assigned you,
Yes.
against your will,
No, okay, so
but you didn't, but which you did not bother to change was, what are some podcasts more enjoyable than this one?
well, I enjoy in all seriousness, I enjoy our podcast quite a bit.
You know what?
Yes.
This is ironic. I'm interrupting you to say, like, my least favorite part of our podcast is when I talk. But
That is
sometimes I feel like, oh God, I'm about to talk a lot. I have to, like, skip ahead. Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, well yeah, I do that too.
I always have such high hopes for the things that I'm gonna say, and then they turn out to be
yeah, you know, I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I like the
because the
sorry, no.
on, sorry.
Have you guys heard the Slate Political Gabfest? That's probably my favorite podcast.
I have not listened to
It's
that one.
quite good.
I
Is it good?
have listened to the Slate Political Gabfest. I think I only listened to it once, and maybe I should give it another chance.
It's really good.
It seemed like they were talking about
they have really good
politics
chemistry
a
with
lot.
each other.
Yeah,
I like politics.
Did
I
you
read Slate
did you
from
listen?
time to
Did you ever
time.
listen to Left, Right, and Center?
No, is that a Slate?
That's a no.
no.
It's.
What
I
is
think
that?
it's actually a. I think it's actually a NPR show that runs in the Los Angeles area. But it's another one where they talk about politics and stuff. It despite the title Left, Right, and Center, it's actually like three people who are very liberal and like one token conservative. I believe. It's like I think it's like far left, kind of centrist left, extreme far left, and conservative. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds like awesome.
Um,
I also listen to Away with Words, which is an NPR show where they talk about language. It's pretty awesome.
Oh.
I didn't know
think
they
it's
had.
NPR.
I think I heard that on the
sounds good.
radio. You know what?
Yeah,
was,
okay. Yeah, I think it actually is a radio show.
what
but
you know was
I listen to it as a podcast. It's a call-in show, so people call in, right?
yeah.
And then they answer and they say, "Hello, you have a way with words."
And they're like, "Oh, I'm
that's-
sorry."
They just say thank you and hang up.
I think that's pretty clever. What podcast do
Yeah,
you
that's
listen to, guys?
Well, these have to be podcasts that are more enjoyable than ours. Is that the idea?
That's the idea.
Well, you know, I guess my thinking was, as I think you know, a lot of our listeners we're the first podcast they come to. Like, a lot of people, when they first get a smartphone or iPod or whatever, and they get connected to iTunes for the first time, they just type, like, podcast into the search feature, and we're the first one that comes up. And so they start listening to us, but they maybe don't know what else is out there. So it might be, it's nice to introduce them, let them know what other podcasts they might enjoy.
Well, let's see.
That was my thinking.
Star Talk is a good one. That's Neil deGrasse Tyson's.
Neil deGrasse
I saw him. Did I tell you guys that?
You saw Neil deGrasse Tyson?
You saw
he
him
came
in
and
person?
spoke at Tulane.
In the flesh?
Which is not a school that I go to,
Oh, yeah?
but I went there that day. And it kind of sucked, actually, because they only... It didn't suck. It sucked that it rained, and we had to stand outside in the rain for like 3 hours.
Oh, dear. Just to see Neil
just to get
deGrasse
in?
Tyson?
Yeah, because it was in a small auditorium, and it only... Like, they only ended up fitting like a couple hundred people who weren't students. Like, they let all the students go in first, and then they opened it to the general public.
So did you got in, though?
Yeah, we got in, because we got there at like 4:30, and there were maybe 50 people ahead of us in line, and I feel like we barely got in.
You've got to get to early to a Neil deGrasse Tyson show.
You do. He was really...
Because there's all those Tyson heads just follow him around the country.
He was really cool, though, because
going to his public lectures.
He came out and he actually like shook hands with a bunch of people in line who it was obvious were not going to get in.
Oh, that is
too
nice.
far back.
That is nice of Neil deGrasse Tyson.
That's class. That's genuine class.
He's a classy guy.
What did he talk about?
He talked about like a lot of sciencey things that were in the news lately, and like a lot of just a lot of ridiculous things that he has to put up with, as far as like when the media tries to cover science. Like, they report on the supermoon, which is when the moon is like 0.0001% larger than it normally is. And stuff like that. And
this is the first I'm hearing about this.
It's when it's something to do with...
I've heard of the supermoon.
When it's a full moon, and when it's at...
high tide.
Is it perihelion or aphelion? It's one of those. When it's...
It sounds
as
great,
close as it normally is in its orbit. So those two things, when they coincide, they make it like slightly larger than it normally is. And when the media reports on these things, they like blow it all out of proportion, and they make it sound like it's more impressive than it actually is. Which I thought was kind of cool, because he was like, no, it's not really that impressive. Which is not something you hear a lot from scientists.
They're always trying to make you think shit is going to be impressive that isn't.
And then, like, he talked a lot about state governments stupid rulings on, like, what should be taught in classrooms. Like,
so was he just
fake controversies and
was
stuff
he
like
mostly just like kind of talking smack about like a bunch of sciencey stuff, like, yeah, this supermoon sucks.
Space, it's all just a bunch of rocks.
It was yeah,
because he is a listener to our podcast.
And
he actually is kind of like down on manned exploration.
I hear that. That's what I've been saying. I've been saying that for years.
Yeah, so
just a bunch of rocks.
He's pretty much in your camp on
it
that.
It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. But okay, so he hosts the Star Talk podcast. Is that what I'm given to understand?
Yeah, and he takes questions
I think so.
from listeners, and he usually has like a co-host who will be like some popular comedian, and they say funny stuff while he's being...
All right, what's the most
relatively more
embarrassing podcast you listen to? Is that it?
Oh God, no. I listen to a lot of Star Trek related podcasts.
Really?
That is embarrassing.
That's pretty
very embarrassing. I'm impressed.
There's this thing called the Trek FM network, and they have like a lot of different shows about different topics related to Star Trek.
I didn't know you were that into Star Trek.
No.
Almost as much as I'm into Star Talk.
I would say the most embarrassing podcast that I listen to with any regularity would be the Skeptics Guide to the Universe.
What is that?
It's
that sounds good.
It's a podcast about skepticism, and they talk about like science and stuff. There's a lot of really nerdy shit on there, and then there's a lot of talk about like pseudoscience and stuff. But I would say it's the one that I'd be most worried, like if I was riding in the car with someone and like, I don't want that to accidentally come on, you know. Because they'd think I was like a nerd or something.
Is that kind of like... I have a couple podcasts that are kind of like that. Have you ever heard The Thinking Atheist?
I haven't heard
that.
No.
No, sounds like...
Or Atheism 101 is really good. I like that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's mostly just these two guys talking to each other, and they do this kind of neat thing where they have a segment. It's not in every episode, but they have a segment where they like each one takes on the persona of like some god from some religious tradition, and they do like they pretend that they're having like a boxing match between the two of them, and they do like a play-by-play that they've obviously like take a lot of time to actually like write all this out, and then they play act it. It's pretty interesting.
That sounds both embarrassing and kind of cool.
That is embarrassing. Yeah, I would check that out. Why do you build me up, Buttercup, baby, just to let me down and mess me around? And then the worst of all, you never call, baby, when you say you will. But I love you still, I need you more than anyone, darling. I know that I have from the start, so build me up, Buttercup, don't break my heart.
That's how it goes.
I'll be over at 10, you told me now and again, but you're late. I wait around and then I went to the door, I can't take anymore. It's not you, you let me down again.
Hey, hey, hey,
baby, try to find
hey, hey, hey,
the time and I'll make you mine. I'll be home, I'll be beside the phone waiting for you.
Why do you build me up, Buttercup, baby, just to let me down and mess me around? And then the worst of all, you never call, baby, when you say you will.
Say you will.
But I love you still, I need you.
Need you.
More than anyone, darling. Now that I did from the start, so build me up, Buttercup, don't break my heart. Fuck no.
To you I'm a toy, but I couldn't be the boy you adore. If you just let me know, although you're untrue, I'm attracted to you all the more. Why do I need you so? Hey, hey, hey. Oh, baby, just try to find. Hey, hey, hey. Little time and I'll make you mine. Hey, hey, hey. I'll be home now. I'm beside the phone waiting for you.
What?
Yeah, you're right.
Why do you build me up,
Build me up,
Buttercup, baby, just to let me down?
let me down.
Mess me around, and then worst of all,
Worst of all,
you never call, babe, and when you say you will,
say you will.
oh, I love you still. I need you more than anyone. Darling, you know that I have from the start. So build me up, Buttercup,
Build me up.
and don't break my heart.
Are there more words?
That's all I have.
Yeah, that's it. All right. Well done, everybody.
Can we do the hey 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 part again?
You want to try one more time?
Hey, 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 baby, try to find. Hey, 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 a little time, and I'll make you mine. I'll be home. I'll be beside the phone, waiting for you. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Why do you build me up?
Build me up.
Buttercup, baby, just to let me down. And mess me around. And then worst of all, you never call. And when you say you will, I love you still. I need you more than anyone, darling. You know that I have from the start. So build me up,
Build me up.
Buttercup, don't break my heart.
So is that when that seemed fine or not? I
Yeah,
can't
that's probably
tell.
good.
That was all I had for tonight. I don't know if that was.
Should we call it?
I thought that was our
Yeah?
best episode
Oh.
yet.
Second best for me.
Which one's the best?
Oh, I think I was maxed out that entire time.
What?
Oh, it was definitely the best, Ben.
Okay, that'll be good. That'll be good.
Yeah, that's ideal. All right. Are we done then?
Yeah, we're
We
done.
might be.
Bearfriend Tea Party is a podcast, and you just listen to it. You can contact us at bearfriendteaparty@aol.com.
Why do you build me up, Buttercup, baby, just to let me on down, mess me around, and then worst of all, you never call, baby, when you say you will. But I love you still, I need you more than anyone.
I need you.
Darling, you know that I have from the start. So just feel me,
You know it.
but